My daughter waves the nursing home papers in front of the board, ready to strip me of my home. I steady my hand on the table. Proof sealed in my folder. She sneers. Sign it. I look up. This is my wife's funeral, not my eviction. Of lilies and candle wax, and I stood beside Helen's casket, steadying my breath. My daughter, Anna Delaney, moved through the crowd like she owned the air. Guests whispered condolences, but I barely heard them. Grief was heavy enough. Until Anna turned my wife's funeral into a boardroom meeting about my future. Hymn faded into the soft wheeze of the organ. I was still, hands folded at the rail, when Anna stepped a half-pace closer and lifted her chin like she was calling a vote. Congratulations, Dad. We need to talk about living arrangements, she said. You can't live alone anymore. Murmurs rippled across the pews. A few heads turned. Ethan stood behind her, jacket buttoned, eyes scanning the room as if he'd reserved it. I manage my own life, I said, keeping my voice even. The stone floor carried it farther than I intended. A neighbor touched Anna's sleeve. Is this the home you mentioned? She asked, a whisper that struck like a bell. The organist paused, the last note wobbled. It's safer, Anna told the neighbor, eyes on me. We've already looked. Ethan added, not quite sotto voce, doctor said he's at risk. Then bring the paper, I said. Until then, bring respect. The neighbor's eyes slipped to her phone. A thumb moved. I didn't try to read the screen. I let the silence sit between us like the unlit aisle candles, solemn and visible. Reverend Carter stepped nearer, palms together. Friends, let's keep the room gentle. We honor Helen today. I'm honoring her by making sure Dad is safe, Anna said. People fall. People forget. I haven't forgotten anything that matters, I said. She blinked as if I'd broken script. Ethan shifted, clearing his throat for lines he didn't dare say under the cross. A second neighbor, Mrs. Larkin, cardigan tight, throat lined with years of choir, stood a little straighter. She didn't speak, but she watched. I caught the angle of her head, the registering tilt. Names, faces, phrases. I filed them the way I used to file maintenance tickets. Date, time, issue, witness. Mr. Delaney, Reverend Carter said softly, if any arrangement talk is needed, perhaps later. For now, we pray. I can pray and keep my keys, I said. Anna exhaled, lips tight. We'll follow up, she told Ethan, loud enough for the front pew to hear. Soon. I turned my eyes back to Helen's casket. The lilies looked perfect, almost smug, crisp white against the pall. At home, her rosemary mug would still be on its hook, a faint scent on the clay. I pictured it. The handle had a little nick where she'd chipped it on the sink. I let that small, practical memory hold me upright. A few more hands pressed mine, words I didn't remember while they were being spoken. I remembered the looks, though. Pity like a soft glove, curiosity like a pin. Somewhere behind me, Ethan's pen scratched a line into the guest book. The sound needled. Dad, Anna said again, lower now. We've scheduled a tour. Not here, I said. She took a half step back. For a second, she looked like my girl at a school concert, eyes searching for approval. Then her face hardened into the one that schedules people. After the service, she said, don't be difficult. I bent my head. The organ began again, gentle as a hand on the shoulder. It had the weight Helen used to place there when she wanted to end an argument. I breathed once, slow. I was not going to be moved like furniture. Frank, Reverend Carter murmured as the congregation drifted toward the hall. I'll check on you later this week. I'll be home, I said. Your father's stubborn, a man whispered to Anna. Not unkind, not kind. Tia's alone, she said, and let the word ring. I let it ring too. Alone isn't the same as helpless. Alone is sometimes the only way not to be steered. At the door, Mrs. Larkin brushed my sleeve. You call if you need anything, she said, and held my eyes an extra beat. A witness line, signed without ink. Outside, the cold air pinched my lungs. Candle smoke clung to my coat. I stood a moment under the portico while the bell tolled. Cars murmured away. Ethan pretended to take a call. Anna pretended not to watch me. I'll come by tonight, she said finally. We'll go over options. I have plans, I said. With who? Sharp, an owner's question. With myself. Her mouth tightened. That's not funny. I wasn't trying to be. We held that line between us like a rope neither of us would drop. She let go first. I went back inside to say a last goodbye to Helen in the quiet left by people. I touched the wood not for her, for me. The rosemary would wait at home. I would put on the kettle. I would write down the names and the words, and I would do it without shaking. Heart pulse, resolve beneath grief, hold the line. When I finally stepped into the light again, my phone buzzed. One new voicemail. Anna, 12:03 p.m. I didn't press play. I slid the phone into my pocket and walked toward the car, the bell tolling once more for the road ahead. The house was too quiet for a Monday. I set the kettle on and opened Helen's old recipe tin. The notebook fit where her cinnamon cards used to live. I wrote 3 columns. What they claimed, what's true, who heard it. Unsafe alone, I wrote, then church, Anna, then 3 names from the pews. My pen stopped shaking once it made the second line straight. I called the clinic. Frank Delaney, I need to see Dr. Nayar this week. The scheduler clicked keys. We're booked, Mr. Delaney. Next week, Friday at 10, I said. I'll be early. A pause. We've had a cancellation, Friday 10 a.m. Thank you. I circled the square on the paper calendar, then set the phone to add an appointment. Friday, 10 o'clock. Dr. Nayar appeared in neat blue. The kettle started to peel. I poured water into Helen's rosemary mug and let steam find my face. Calm returns when the plan is written. Mrs. Larkin knocked once and opened the back door 2 inches. Frank, I brought you muffins. The church had extra. Plead them, I said. And you. Fingers put the bag on the counter, eyes on me the way choir people look at sheet music before they sing. I heard talk. You doing all right? I'll be fine, I said. Friday. That'll quiet some mouse, she said, then added softer, if they want to be quiet. They'll hear what matters, I said. She squeezed my forearm and left before I had to thank her twice. Propane rang while the mug was still too hot to hold. Anna. I let it ring twice and answered. Where are you? Hi. Good. You picked up. Her voice had that brittle brightness people use for customer service and family. Wednesday, our place 6:30. We'll have dinner and go over routine paperwork. It's time. Dinner is dinner, I said. Paperwork isn't routine because you say so. It's standard, Dad. The attorney will be there to explain. Very simple. Then why invite him to dinner? The kettle whistled again as the burner clicked off under its own mind. I turned the knob anyway, just to be sure. Confiscated. Because you get stubborn, she said, and the sooner we do this, the safer you'll be. Safe is me deciding what I sign and when. I set the mug down carefully so it didn't clink. We can eat, we won't sign. Silence. I could hear traffic through her car phone, a turn signal ticking. You're being difficult. I'm being clear. Dad, if you don't cooperate, people will assume you're paranoid, I said. You used that word yesterday. She exhaled hard. I'm trying to help, and that stopped trying to manage me in public. Wednesday, she said, 6:30. I'll come for the food, I said, not for the pen. She hung up without goodbye. The kettle had stopped complaining. The house, blessedly, returned to its ordinary noises, the old fridge humming, a branch tapping the kitchen window. I wrote in the notebook, call with Anna, dinner trap, no signatures, then underlined witnesses and wrote Rev. Carter with a question mark. He was fair, he saw. Ordered the church office. The secretary kept me on hold long enough to get half a toast buttered. St. Matthew's, pharmaceutical. This is Frank Delaney. Please tell Reverend Carter thank you for yesterday and that I appreciate his calm. I'll see him Sunday. Receiver. I'll pass it along, Mr. Delaney. At the table, I set my notebook beside the rosemary mug and drew a box around Friday. The blue square on the phone now felt like a tool instead of a taunt. I made one more list. Keys, locks, duplicates, chain. If my door became a stage, I wanted my side of it to hold. My phone buzzed. Anna, dinner wed 6:30. Don't be difficult. A small gray red slid under it, right on time, like she'd planned the obedience too. I didn't reply. I put the phone face down, slid the notebook back into Helen's tin, and let the mug warm my hands. The foyer smelled like old hymnals and lemon oil. Bulletins shuffled in wicker baskets as people funneled toward the steps and the November light. I had Helen's name still in my mouth when Anna reached for my elbow, as if directing traffic. "Dad, just a quick word," she said, projecting for the cluster within earshot. "Your tour is Monday at 10. Ethan will drive." A couple stopped mid-step. Ethan smoothed his tie with 2 fingers as if that settled jurisdiction. "I'm not touring," I said, plain as the stone underfoot. "It's booked," Anna said. They're holding a spur at the program table leaned over. Too helpful by half. "What time is his tour?" he asked Anna, voice bright and carrying. 10 o'clock, Anna said, not looking at me. "Then bring the paper, leave the rumors," I said. "Otherwise it's coffee and air." The hymn book in someone's hands thudded shut. The usher blinked like he'd missed a cue. Ethan tilted his head. "The doctor said." "Then the doctor can write it," I said. "He hasn't," and a little off to the side, the sun edging her hair silver. She wasn't smiling. She was recording with her eyes the way choir people do before the first note. Creer A's between us like a levee. "Friends," he said steady, "we keep charity with each other, especially today." "I'm keeping charity," Anna said, "by preventing a fall." "Keep my own feet," I said. "Outshout them. I'll outlast them. On paper." 2 teens sidled past, then hovered to see if anything dramatic would happen. Nothing did. I wouldn't hand Anna a scene in front of Helen's name. I stepped toward the steps. She matched me, newscaster crisp. "Dad, please don't be difficult about this," she said. "We've looked at Sunnybrook. They're expecting you." "Sunnybrook doesn't expect me," I said. "You do." The usher fussed with the program basket again to have something to do. "If there's anything the church can," aide looking at Reverend Carter, "remember this conversation happened." He met my eyes and nodded once. I heard what was said. Family tension exchange. "Anna, you can't live alone anymore. It isn't safe." "Frank, show me safety on paper." "Ethan, this isn't a courtroom." "Frank, you made it a hearing when you brought an audience." A blast of cold air gusted as the outer doors opened. The bell gave a single test chime, and everything stilled for a beat, like a photo you could stand inside. Then movement resumed, a tide breaking around us. "I'll call you tonight with details," Anna said, reverting to schedule voice. 10 a.m. Monday. "You can call," I said. "I won't tour." She wet her lips, recalculating. Ethan checked his watch, as if time itself were a witness for their side. "Frank," Reverend Carter said, softer, "do you want me to walk you to your car?" "I'd appreciate that." We moved toward the doorway. People widened the aisle, eyes skittering away and then back. At the threshold, I paused, not for effect, but to breathe the cold. Across the street, a maple clung to the last copper leaves like it resented winter. "Hi, Mr. Delaney," the usher called after us, cheeks pink now. "If you need a ride Monday?" "I have plans Monday," I said. He looked to Anna for correction. She offered him a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. On the top step, I turned to the small knot that had pretended not to be listening. "Thank you for coming for Helen," I said. "I'll be at the house this week if anyone wants to share stories." Camouflage that shifted the air. Helen was a door no one wanted to slam in public. As we descended, Mrs. Larkin drifted near. "If you need anything tomorrow, I'm around," she said without looking straight at me. "Tomorrow I'm fine," I said. "Wednesday I'm fed." Her mouth twitched. "I'll make extra." Undermined the curb, Reverend Carter touched my sleeve. "You held your ground without making an altar of it," he said. "I'm learning where to stand." He nodded toward Anna, who'd stopped just inside, phone to her ear, eyes calculating angles. "I will be at your coffee on Sunday, if you wish." "Sunday," I said, 3. It felt like a line drawn with chalk, thin, erasable to the eye, but real underfoot. The November sun had that glare that lies about warmth. I unlocked the car. On the passenger seat, my phone lit with a notification I'd meant to set and hadn't. HOA meeting, Wednesday, 7 p.m. The blue card filled the screen like a reminder from a stricter version of me. Knowledgeable the voice recorder app and toggled auto record on incoming. A small red dot glowed in the corner. Unobtrusive, patient. I set the phone face down, felt the weight of it, and closed the door. Anna's dining room looked like a brochure for order. Candles centered, napkins folded into tidy sails, rosemary clipped into a low vase that smelled like my kitchen used to. Ethan poured water like a maitre d'. A young attorney I'd never met waited with a zippered portfolio and the smile people wear when they've rehearsed the end. "Dad," Anna said, brushing my shoulder as if I might drift. "Sit here, at." The plates were warm. The food was careful. The air was staged. "Well, we're glad you came," the attorney said. "Michael Hart, just to go over a few standard documents." "Dinner first," I said. "Documents later, if at all." "We can do both," Anna said, cheerful as a newscast. "It's efficient." We ate a few neutral bites. Michael kept his portfolio on the table as if it were a centerpiece. I waited for the move. I didn't have to wait long. "Mr. Delaney," he said, unzipping, "these are very common at your age. Durable power of attorney, healthcare proxy, purely protective. Let's start with the POA. Flex a stack toward me. The top page flashed a blank signature line like a snare. "Dinner is dinner," I said. "Signatures are mine." "Of course," he said smoothly, pen already uncapped. "This is simply to ensure your daughter can act if needed." "If needed, I'll act," I said. Anna's smile thinned. "Dad, please, this is routine. We're just being responsible." "Routine is what I choose," I said, "not what you announce." Ethan's napkin rustled. "Frank, you know we're only thinking of safety." "Safety won't mind if I read every line twice." Michael nodded. "Professional patience. Take your time. We've pre-filled the non-substantive fields to simplify. You would only need to sign here." The pen tapped the space again. The tap felt like a metronome for compliance. Heart pulse, hunger vanished. I was the one being served. Hands in my lap. "Who drafted these?" "Our firm," Michael said. "Template language, very standard. Then they can wait until my counsel reviews them." Anna's eyes flicked at Ethan. "Dad, bringing an attorney into a simple family matter is..." "Ent," I said. She took a breath, pressed her fingertips to the tablecloth like she could iron me flat. "You're being difficult." "I'm being clear," I said, and I slid the pages back a respectful inch without touching the pen. Fleeing tension exchange. Running everything yourself. "Frank, I'm walking, not running." "Ethan, everyone signs this at some point." "Frank, everyone is in a reason." "Anna, it lets me help you." "Frank, then help me by listening." Michael tried a different tone, the one for reluctant donors. "If you prefer, we can initial the first page to acknowledge receipt and schedule a follow-up. No commitment tonight." "Receipt acknowledged," I said. "No initials." "Misled another," he said gently. "Without some authority in place, decisions can become chaotic in an emergency." "I have a doctor's appointment Friday," I said. "I'll bring any decisions I need then." That bumped something in Anna. "A checkup won't fix falling. You forgot the church money last month, remember? Pastor had to." "I didn't forget $1, I said. "You said I forgot $1. Her cheeks colored. Ethan's fork touched porcelain, a chime of impatience. Michael set the pen down, palms open. "No one is accusing you of anything, sir." "Yes, they are," I said, and I turned to Anna. "They're accusing me with your voice." Silence arranged itself around the rosemary. For a moment, the room smelled like Sunday dinners when Helen would scold me for arguing after Grace. The memory steadied me instead of softening me. Michael cleared his throat. "We can table this. Perhaps a quick signature to acknowledge we met." "Michael," Ethan said. "He's not..." "Kierda, he's choosing," I said. Anna's brightness snapped like a twig. "We're doing this for your own good." Reluctantly, "You're doing this for your own control." Ethan leaned in. "That's unfair." "What's unfair is turning my wife's funeral into a planning meeting," I said. "Tonight is better food, same plan." Michael put the pen back in the portfolio. The smallest muscles in his jaw relaxed, calculation adjusting to reality. He shifted to script B. "There's no rush. We can leave these with you." "You can leave a copy," I said, "not the originals." He glanced at Anna. She had a duplicate packet out and kept the one with the embossed tab. I stood. Not abruptly, enough to make the chair whisper and the table notice. Thank you for the meal, I said. Thank you for the papers. I won't be signing tonight. Anna rose too because she's my daughter, and she was raised to walk guests to the door even when they're family. Dad, unprotected? Sunday at 3, I said. Coffee at my place. Bring your concerns. Bring your best words. Her voice went soft and cutting. Without consent, they'll think you're unfit. I met Michael's eyes so he'd hear the line land. Without consent, I said, they'll think I can still choose. I picked up the duplicate packet, turned it so the blank signature line stared at no one, and tucked it under my arm. At the door, the rosemary on the sideboard brushed my sleeve. Helen's herb, new cuts in a different house. I thank Ethan for dinner. He nodded like a man who knows he's lost a round he expected to win by default. I walked out steady, the packet light as paper and heavy as proof I hadn't given away. I started the morning by copying last night's notes into cleaner lines. Claim/truth/who heard. The page looked like a ledger, and that steadied me. I slipped the notebook into Helen's recipe tin and drove to the clinic with the rosemary mug on the passenger seat like a co-pilot I could trust not to take the wheel. The lobby smelled like antiseptic and paper. A copier hummed somewhere behind a door. Dr. Nayar called my name himself, not a nurse, which told me he'd read the chart and maybe the situation in my voice when I'd scheduled. Inside, his office was neat, 2 diplomas and 1 photo of a hiking trail. He shook my hand like I was a man, not a problem. We did the usual, names, short-term recall, a little math that I did out loud so there was no question. He smiled. Mr. Delaney, you're sharper than my interns before coffee. I've had mine, I said, and lifted the rosemary mug an inch. He asked what brought me in. I told him, lightly, without adjectives. My daughter is trying to solve a problem I don't have, in public rooms. He listened, fingers templed. I can document your capacity, he said. I'll write a statement. We can notarize as needed, though a signed physician statement will usually do. Relief feels like oxygen. I'm not who they say. Undermined, more cautious. The written statement will be ready Tuesday at 9. Today I can put notes in your chart. Tuesday works, I said, even as I felt the time between now and then stretch like a bridge that might sway. He stood. Anything else I should know? Rumors, I said. They're using the phrase doctor said without paper. Then let the paper say what the doctor said? He replied dry. I'll make sure the language is clear. Home, we shook hands again. On my way out, the scheduler clicked through her screen. Pick up Tuesday, 9 a.m., Mr. Delaney, she said, and slid a little square appointment card toward me. I didn't touch it. I just nodded and put the time into my phone. Tuesday, 9 o'clock, follow-up, bloom blue on the screen. The copier hummed louder. Somewhere in the lobby, a volunteer whispered into a headset, we'll make sure he gets evaluated for placement, like she was announcing shipments. I didn't stop. The receptionist met my eyes. She'd heard it too. The corners of her mouth pressed into a line that wasn't quite apology and wasn't approval either. Outside, the air had the clean bite of late autumn. Mrs. Larkin was just walking in, scarf looped twice. How'd it go? She asked. Discredit. I can still add and subtract, I said. Some people can't subtract their opinions, she said, and touched my elbow. Call if you need a ride Tuesday. I'll be here early, I said. I set the mug down, opened my notebook and wrote, Doctor will write statement, Tuesday, 9 o'clock. Then I slid my phone onto the desk, face up. I'd armed auto-record after church. It would grab what came to it. I wanted one more thing it didn't have to chase. I scrolled to Anna's name. I didn't want to fight. I wanted a sentence on tape I could stand on. She answered on the second ring. Hey, Dad, you ready for Wednesday? I'll make lasagna. Sounds good, I said. One question, you told the usher the doctor said I was at risk. Which doctor? She said. Dad, she said, he'll tell you on Friday. I said, and he didn't say that. Don't be clever, she said, voice tightening. The doctor agrees you can't live alone safely. We're moving you to Sunnybrook, that's decided. He can write it? He will, and if you keep resisting, people will think you're paranoid, I said. We're back to that word. You're twisting me, she said. You forget things. You forgot the charity cash box last month. I forgot you, I said, before I could stop it. Not the right line, but it landed somewhere quiet. She sighed. We'll see you Wednesday. Bring your appetite, I said, and ended the call before the rest of the script kicked in. I saved the recording to a new folder labeled with today's date. I emailed the file to myself with a subject I'd recognize later without screaming anything to anyone. Notes for Wednesday. A red dot blinked, then stilled. I plugged in a small USB and dragged a copy over. The progress bar crawled at the speed of old men crossing streets. Good. Let the machine respect my pace. Family, tension, exchange. Anna. The doctor agrees you can't live alone safely. Frank. If a doctor said it, he can write it. Anna. He will. It's decided. Frank. Decisions without my name aren't about me. Anna. Wednesday, 6:30. Frank. I'll eat. I won't sign. I brewed fresh tea. The house felt less like a museum and more like a shop where the craftsman had simply stepped away from the bench. I sat at the desk and wrote the chain in short lines. Call recorded, saved, emailed, copied. I stopped myself before I turned the list into a shrine. Plumped the mail slot. I picked it up, felt the shape of a letter inside, thick with the cautious language offices use when they're careful not to say, "We're worried." The return address was the clinic. Instructions, plus next steps, probably boilerplate for patients my age. Practition it to the desk and set it near the notebook, the glue seam still unbroken. It could sit there and radiate its urgency at the room. I wasn't going to let paper lead. On the phone, the Tuesday 9 card glowed in its square. I tapped the screen dark and let quiet lay down over the house, newly useful. The freezer aisle coughed cold air every time someone opened the door. I reached for a bag of peas like any other man making dinner for one. 2 aisles over, Anna's voice lifted just enough to ride the hum of the lights. He wanders at night, she told a woman from the choir. Leaves the stove on, we're handling it. I didn't turn, the cartwheel squeaked in a rhythm I could measure my breath to. I read the ingredients and learned nothing new about peas. He misplaced the charity money, Anna added, softer and sharper. I covered it. The choir woman murmured something sympathetic that felt like a stamp on paper I hadn't seen. I moved to the end cap, picked up a loaf of bread I didn't need to slow my timing, and rounded into their aisle just as Anna turned her back to compare labels. She didn't see me, the other woman did. Her eyes flicked from my face to the floor, to the shelf, to anywhere else. Concern is just gossip with softer shoes. I rolled past without a word and stopped near the coffee. A sample machine hissed. I watched steam lift from the spout and thought about the line I'd need to stand on in 2 days. Anger steadies me. It keeps me moving. At checkout, the scanner beeped like a heart monitor. The cashier bagged my bread over my peas and gave me the automatic smile people wear before they know what they're about to say. "Mr. Delaney, right?" she said, too loud for a Monday. "Your dad okay on his own?" She blinked, corrected herself. "Sorry, are you okay on your own?" "I am," I said. "Wilmington," she said, relief theatrical. "Your daughter was in earlier, really worried." "Worry is different from truth," I said, gently enough that it didn't bruise, firmly enough that it didn't invite more. A man behind me shifted, trying to look like he wasn't listening. The cashier's eyes widened with an apology that didn't fix the air. Anna breezed into the front end as if she owned the lights. She saw me then, a pause, not long, just enough to let us both choose what to do. "Tay," she said, pleasant as an ad. "Need help to the car? I can push a cart." "Of course you can," she said, as if agreeing with herself. "HOA Wednesday?" "I saw the notice," I said. Family tension exchange. Anna. "People are just concerned." Frank. "People repeat what they're fed." Anna. "You're twisting everything." Frank. "I'm straightening it." She smiled for the cashier and turned away before the smile could fail. I paid. The receipt curled out with a long whisper like a hesitant confession. I didn't read it. I pushed the cart through the sliding doors into the vestibule where the corkboard lived. There it was, inkjet bold. HOA, Wesd, 7 p.m., with a strip of tear-off tabs no one needed. It held a corner of the board like a claim on the week. I took out my pocket calendar and circled WED in a slow, dark ring. The pen sank a little deeper into the paper than it needed to. Good. Apologize, the glass. Late afternoon peeled itself off the parking lot. A kid across the way practiced a skateboard kickflip and landed it with a clap that made an old woman jump. Life rehearsed itself for bigger rooms. I pushed the cart to my car and loaded peas and unnecessary bread into the trunk. As I closed it, I caught my reflection in the window. Older, yes. Alone, yes. Not an object. He slid into the driver's seat, breathed once, and let the quiet settle just long enough to tell me I was still the one making choices. The community hall smelled like coffee and cardboard cups and dry erase marker. Folding chairs made a hush like pressed shirts when people sat. I took a seat along the wall where I could see the whole room and the glass doors to the native plant garden. A rosemary bush there held on to its needles in the dark like it had decided not to shed for anyone. Meeting will come to order, the HOA chair said, banging a plastic gavel with more cheer than authority. Agenda is posted. I lifted my phone, opened the HOA email, and let the screen rest in my palm long enough to read the agenda. Neighbor concerns header. One cue was enough. I pocketed the phone, pressed record, and watched. Professional had dressed for a panel discussion. Navy dress, flat shoes that whispered efficiency. Ethan sat 2 chairs back, a stack of pamphlets on his lap like props he didn't quite trust. Under neighbor concerns, the chair said, we have a topic raised by Anna Delaney regarding her father, Frank Delaney, a resident of our community. 30 pairs of eyes remembered me from the mailboxes in the pool gate. Concern wears friendly faces. Anna rose with a smile that knew it was being watched. Thank you. This is about keeping our community safe. My father has been struggling to live alone. We're arranging a transition to Sunnybrook, a reputable facility that has space now. We're grateful they can take him before winter weather increases fall risks. A murmur traveled the row. Reputation by weather forecast. Efficient. I raised a hand halfway. Point of personal, I said. The chair glanced at Anna, then at me. Briefly, Mr. Delaney. CERN is noted, I said. No move is authorized. Anna kept her smile, turned it into a shape for the room. He doesn't recognize the danger, she said gently. Last month, he misplaced charity funds during church collections. Pastor had to sort it out. Across the room, Miss Larkin's chin lifted a fraction. She didn't speak. She recorded with her eyes. Ethan stood to add a statistic that had nothing to do with me. 1 in 4 seniors falls each year, he said, voice warm with borrowed authority. We're just trying to avoid a crisis. The chair cleared her throat. We take neighbor safety seriously. What are you asking from the board? Anna spread her hands like a clean table. Support, a letter encouraging Mr. Delaney to consider assisted living. Reassurance to neighbors that the HOA is aware and that there's a plan. I felt the heat of 30 nods on my coat sleeves. Every nod against me burned, but silence built the strike to come. Family tension exchange. Anna to the room. He resists help even when it's necessary. Frank, I resist being managed in public. Ethan, this isn't about pride. Frank, then don't sell it like a product. A man from the cul-de-sac raised his hand. We saw Mr. Delaney taking out trash at midnight last week. I was taking out trash, I said, at midnight. Laughter bit off quickly. The chair tapped her gavel once. Order, please. Anna pivoted. We don't want to embarrass him, she said, and the word did the work anyway. We just want what's safest. Concern without paper is theater, I said. A few heads turned at that. The chair leaned forward. Mr. Delaney, do you have documentation you'd like the board to consider? Yes, I said, when it's ready. I didn't look at Anna when I said it. I looked at the rosemary through the glass and thought about stubborn plants. Ethan lifted the stack of pamphlets an inch. We've prepared information on fall prevention and care options, he said. We don't distribute materials from private providers, the chair said quickly. Board rules worked when they wanted them to. Anna adjusted. Then perhaps the board can note, in minutes, that there is a plan to protect residents and ease neighbor worry. We're moving quickly. How quickly? Someone asked. Facility has space next week, Anna said. We're grateful. I counted the beats of breath between her words. Gratitude like a bow over a lever. The chair nodded. mollified by a timeline. We'll place this under neighbor concerns. Any board member wish to speak? A woman near the front folded her hands. We just want everyone safe, she said, looking at me and then not. It's hard to watch a family struggle. I'm not struggling, I said. I'm being organized. The room took that in and set it down like mail you mean to read later. The chair wrote something with the cap off her pen. Action items. Circulate best practices for home safety. Draft a reassurance note for newsletter. We will revisit next month. Board vote. Next month, Ethan prompted, too eager. We don't vote on private decisions, the chair said, but we can ask for updates. She looked at me again. Mr. Delaney, would you be willing to provide a status next meeting? I will, I said. Anna's mouth smiled, but her eyes cut into a new plan. We'll have an update sooner, she said. We're touring Monday at 10. We're not, I said. My phone felt warm in my pocket. The red dot pulsed without complaint, like a heartbeat that belonged to nobody's story but mine. Mrs. Larkin finally spoke. I'd be willing to help Mr. Delaney with the newsletter if he needs a statement, she said. He writes clean. Thank you, I said. The chair tapped her gavel again. Let's move to landscaping. Chairs shifted. Paper cups made soft drums. People pretended not to look at me as they looked at me. I stood, nodding at the few who met my eyes without performing pity. Anna stayed seated, whispering to Ethan, who kept his pamphlets to himself now that the board had fenced them out. I walked the long way around the room, past the glass, past the rosemary that had survived late heat and early frost. Through the door, the night took my breath and gave it back colder. I stopped in the hallway where the echo died and took out my phone. On the screen, the recording timer counted up calmly, indifferent to opinion. I let it run a few seconds longer, a little tribute to endurance, then slid the phone into my coat. Inside, the gavel tapped for old business. I pushed the door with my knuckles. It thudded shut behind me. The tiny red dot still glowed through the fabric, a patient ember as I walked into the parking lot. I set the rosemary mug on a coaster near the phone and wiped a circle on the table with my sleeve. The fridge sticky said what I needed it to. Fry, 10, affidavit sign. Mun, 10, tour, T6. I left the kitchen light on and the living room lamp off. Shadows make some conversations shorter. Negligent came in a bright pattern like salespeople use. I opened the door and stepped back so the porch light haloed them. Not me. Dad, Anna said crisp. We were nearby. Ethan smiled like a confirmation email. We'll keep this quick. Quick is fine, I said and set my phone on the console table face down with the mic toward them. The red dot waited already. I didn't look at it. I looked at their shoes. We're touring Sunnybrook Monday at 10, Anna said, stepping inside before I invited her. They're holding a space. This is happening. You're confusing a schedule with consent, I said. Banged, it's not about consent, she said, and caught herself. It's about safety. Door frame, intake's basically done, he said. Paperwork is submitted. Monday is more of a formality. Then it won't need me, I said. You can't stop this, Dad, Anna said, voice low enough to sound like care, loud enough to be heard. You just helped me, I said. She blinked. What? Unmistaked claim, I said. Claims can be checked. Rada, weeding her jaw, worked. This performance is exhausting. Then stop selling tickets. Family tension exchange. Anna, we're past your objections. Frank, you're past my patience. This is for everyone's peace of mind. Frank, peace doesn't need a pen. Out on the sidewalk, a collar jingled. Mrs. Larkin's terrier lunged at a night scent and yapped twice, a clean, sharp bark that carried. Sorry, she called, reeling the leash in. She stopped within ordinary hearing distance. She didn't come up the walk. She didn't leave either. Anna's eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. We're bringing a truck Monday, she said. Start packing essentials now so it's easier. I don't move on threats or trucks, I said. I move on truth. Ethan's phone chimed. He angled it away, but the preview flashed all set before his thumb wiped it. He cleared his throat. We've coordinated with the facility. They're expecting. Expectations aren't orders, I said. Anna took 2 steps farther into the living room and looked at the family photos like they were props she could rearrange to match her story. Mom would want you safe. Your mother would want me respected, I said. Those aren't opposites unless you make them. Shut swallowed. You keep twisting everything. I keep straightening it, I said. The terrier barked again, closer. Mrs. Larkin's silhouette paused at the curb under the street lamp. Our eyes met for half a second. She didn't nod. She didn't smile. She just marked the moment and let it belong to me. Monday at 10, Anna said, reverting to the line that calmed her, not me. We'll pick you up at 9. No, I said, and you don't have my permission to enter my house when I'm not here. That's not how this works, Ethan said. It's exactly how this works, I said. My house, my consent. Flushing, flattened. We're done here. Held the door open. They went out. Anna almost turned back for a second act. The leash jingle snapped her attention to the sidewalk. She gave Mrs. Larkin a public smile that slid off the night. Evening, Mrs. Larkin said, neutral as a bench, useful as one. Evening, I said. I closed the door to the latch and let the quiet return in layers. The red dot still burned through the glass of the phone like a small ember that didn't need oxygen. In the study, I connected the phone to Wi-Fi and tapped share. I emailed the file to myself with a subject that looked like grocery notes, then watched the sending bar complete. Sent. My thumb stopped shaking once the file landed. The same USB as before, one drag, a pause, a little chime when it finished. I didn't rename it. Names can leak. Folders can hide in ordinary places. I walked back to the door and looked through the peephole. Street empty, porch light humming like an insect. I clicked it off. In the kitchen, the sticky notes waited like bookmarks in time. Friday, 10 o'clock, affidavit sign. Monday, 10 o'clock, tour. I left them where they were. I picked up the rosemary mug, now cool, and emptied it in the sink. My phone buzzed. Transcript ready, preview. I didn't tap it open. I let the words exist without me until I needed them to exist for everyone. Invoke Dr. Nayar read the paragraph out loud before signing, each sentence like a wooden plank laid on a bridge. In my professional opinion, Mr. Frank Delaney demonstrates intact memory, judgment, and capacity for independent living. He capped his pen, looked me in the eye, and added, plain English beats Latin. Amen, I said. He signed with a practiced flick. The clinic stamp came down with a soft rubber kiss beside his name. One clean blue seal. He slid the page into a clear sleeve. Front desk will make your copy. I'll keep the chart original. A stamp is an opinion, I said. Knowledgeable, he said, and offered his hand. His grip was ordinary, which felt like dignity. Out front, the admin tried to smile and feed the sleeve into the copier. The machine answered with a grinding cough. Sorry, she said, popping the front panel. It does this on Fridays. I've seen worse on Mondays, I said. She tugged out a wrinkled sheet the machine had half eaten. 1 minute. Not the copier whined, paused, then lit every warning light it had. Toner scent drifted into the lobby like burnt pencil. A volunteer walked past and said into her headset, I'll flag the placement evaluation. And the admin's mouth tightened like she wanted to apologize for people she didn't manage. Kang, it'll go through, she said. I can wait, I said. She tried again. The rollers grabbed, jittered, and finally surrendered a crisp copy. She pressed the same blue seal beside the signature on my copy. 1Q, no clutter, and slipped it back into the sleeve. There, finally. Thank you, I said, and put the sleeve into my tote beside Helen's rosemary mug wrapped in a dish towel. Proof and memory shared the bag. It felt right. Paper and witness together feel like a backbone. I walked 2 blocks to the church office. Reverend Carter waved me in and shut the door. The office smelled like dust, wood polish, and the faint end of last Sunday's coffee. I'll be brief, I said. I want you to hear 20 seconds, no copies. I press play, you listen, then I pocket the phone. That's reasonable, he said, folding his hands. Quang, I set the phone on his desk, tapped the clip from the porch. Ethan cheerfully, intake's basically done. Anna, quieter and weighty. You can't stop this, Dad. I stopped it before pride could make me greedy. Carter's brow furrowed. He held my eyes. You want me to be present Sunday? Yes, I said. Neutral eyes, neutral ears. I can do that, he said. I won't take sides. I will insist on calm. Calm is how it wins, I said. He nodded once. I'll be there, 3 o'clock. As I stood, a shoe squeaked in the hallway. Someone passing, probably headed to storage. I pocketed the phone anyway. We shook hands. Outside, the wind pushed stray leaves into the gutter. My phone buzzed before I reached the curb. Ethan, truck Monday 9, packing help. Ethan, facility walkthrough 10, type no, and deleted it. I put the phone away. Relaxed at the clinic window, the admin tapped the glass to get my attention and slid a small sticky note under the frame. Bring ID for Notary Monday, 4:30 Ruiz. She'd written a smiley that looked tired. I gave her a small salute. She smiled for real. At home, I cleared a spot on the desk and laid the sleeve flat, blue seal winking once in the lamplight. I didn't photostat it, I didn't parade it. I read the paragraph again slower, and then tucked the sleeve into the file folder with the USB I'd labeled in my head and nowhere else. The church phone rang my landline a few minutes later. Mr. Delaney, Carter said, quick note, we'll keep the gathering Sunday small, myself, Mrs. Larkin, 1 or 2 neighbors. That's perfect. Remember, calm, he said. Calm, I said, and heard the smile in his exhale. I brewed tea. The mug from Helen's towel took the heat, and the rosemary rose like a clean thought. I sat and called the bank to confirm the wording Notary Ruiz would accept for Monday's solvency letter. 15 minutes of hold music, and 1 precise sentence later, I had their answer written in my notebook. Wording okay, balances not required. 3 words circled, stamp, notary, self-email. Tension exchange, text thread. Embarked. Truck Monday 9, boxes coming tomorrow. Frank. Do not enter my house without permission. Anna, we're helping. Stop being obstinate. Frank, stop calling coercion care. Anna, we will see you Sunday. Yes, 3 o'clock. I didn't send more. Words can bruise a case if you let them run.
I set an alarm for Monday 3:45 and added 1 more card to the wall calendar. Mumble 30 Notary Ruiz. The phone echoed it a second later. Helpful in the way a stern clerk is helpful. Another ping followed immediately, and a schedule voice coded into text.
Anna, Mun 10 plus het, tour T through 3 confirmed. Defended Adation line, stayed on the screen like a dare. I let it. I slid the phone into my pocket without replying and listened to the kettle rattle itself quiet. Notary Ruiz's office sat over a bail bond shop and a nail salon, the kind of place where paper decided fates by the hour. A ceiling fan turned lazily, moving more dust than air. Ruiz wore reading glasses on a chain and a suit that didn't apologize for weekdays. You've got your draft, he asked, across. Bank approved the wording, no balances. Hammering, he read every line with a finger, the way a careful man respects verbs. Clean, he said. You're asserting solvency and control of your own accounts. No one else is named. That's the point. He angled the document, looked at me over the lenses. Driver's license? I set it down. He compared face to face without drama, then squared the page on his blotter. The stamp goes here, he said, tapping the lower margin. The stamp goes there, I repeated. Fleming's seal pressed with a sturdy click. 1 clean impression, raised in blue. The sound was small and final. Heart pulse. The stamp's click is louder than their threats. Ruiz signed beneath it and logged the line in a black book whose pages looked like they remembered every story they'd outlasted. You want a scan for your email? Yes. He fed the page into a desktop feeder that chirped like a calm bird. You'll get a PDF. I'll retain a copy with my log. That's it. Simple as good, I said, and shook his hand. Dignity in ordinary grips. Tie. Back home, I set the notarized solvency statement on the kitchen table, took 1 photo for my own eyes and no one else's. Then ran the chain in a single breath. I scanned, emailed the file to myself with a plain subject, and slid a copy onto the USB with the others. I added one line to the notebook, hash noted, and closed it. No alter to paperwork, just a ledger that could testify without boasting. Cook, the rosemary mug, went at the head of the table. Sunday it would sit there while other people's eyes tried to write my life. Tonight it was just heat and clay and a handle Helen had chipped on a happy day. I called the bank to confirm the phrasing. A rep named Shaw answered with the professional calm of a man who'd heard everything twice already. Kang can confirm wording, not balances, he said after I read the first sentence. Wording is all I need. Stabilized, he said. If a verification call comes, we'll confirm the letter exists and what it says. That's enough. He paused. Not everyone knows what's enough, he said, and we ended the call like adults. I composed a short email to the tiny list that mattered. Reverend Carter, Mrs. Larkin, 2 neighbors from the HOA row. Subject, coffee, Sunday 3 o'clock. Brief conversation. Body, I'd appreciate your presence and calm. 10 minutes. I hit send and watched the outbox clear. A reply pinged from Mrs. Larkin first. I'll bring lemon bars. The ordinary nature of that made the room feel sturdy. Another ping. Reverend Carter, I'll come, and I'll keep the room even. I poured more tea and checked the wall calendar. The sticky notes marched towards Sunday, T25 becoming T24, the way evening becomes night without asking. I flipped the little card with the edge of my fingernail so the new day showed. My phone buzzed with a separate thread. Anna, you can't ambush family. Frank, you've been ambushing me in public rooms. Anna, we're protecting you. Ferg, protection that ignores consent is control. To Techno. Perfect. Everyone will hear the plan then.
Family tension exchange, text. Anna, you can't ambush family.
Frank, stop calling control protection. Perfect. Everyone will hear the plan then. Frank, good. I want it heard. I stood the solvency page at the far end of the table, not to display, just to keep it in my sightline like a mountain you intend to climb at a pace that is yours. The notary's seal caught a line of late sun and made one quiet blue wink across the wood. I sent calendar invites, Sunday 3 o'clock, to the same small list, nothing in the notes but the address and the time, the replies stacked neatly. I saved a draft message with 3 attachments and no recipients, then closed it, ready when ready mattered. The phone buzzed again, an RSVP I didn't need from Ethan, this time reply all. Perfect, everyone will hear the plan then. Focus smiled, traps don't need teeth when truth has a chair. I set the phone face down and looked at the chair at the head of the table, the one Helen always took when company came, and placed the rosemary mug there. Sunday it would hold steam. Tonight it held the shape of what wouldn't bend. Punishments, I phoned Reverend Carter from the porch while the light faded to the color of nickel. Sunday at 3, I said. Small circle. Confirmed, he said. I'll keep the room even. Even is all I'm asking. I sent Mrs. Larkin the same line. She replied with a simple, I'm in. Right at 2:50? I thumbed yes and slipped the phone into my pocket. Inside, I tucked a fresh rosemary sprig into my grocery tote, habit now. The house smelled faintly of it, a clean line through a noisy week. Shame prickles. Resolve holds the line. Property was doing its evening ballet, carts rattling, a car door chime nagging someone to close up, kids lobbying for candy at the last minute. I rolled my cart toward the trunk and spotted Anna 2 rows over, talking to a woman from the HOA row. She stood with her back to the open car door, so her words would carry without looking like she wanted them to. He wanders at night, she said, tone calibrated for pity. Left the stove on twice this month. Complied. That's not safe, the woman said, eyebrows folding the way concern likes to fold. I movies him Monday, Anna went on. It's hard but necessary. I set the tote in the trunk and closed it softly. I didn't approach. I didn't hand her a bigger stage. Mrs. Larkin coasted past with a half-full cart and gave me a small nod that could have meant anything and meant exactly what I needed. She angled her cart between us like chance. Anna, she said, friendly as a librarian, do you have that in writing? Anna blinked. What? The stove, the doctor, whatever you're saying, paper or it didn't happen. Anna's smile tightened. We're working with professionals. Good, Larkin said. Bring the paper Sunday. She moved on, wheels squeaking a little. as if truth weighed less than rumor. Anna spotted me then. She didn't walk over. She raised her voice just enough to float the next line. "People notice," she said, to the air and the friend and me. "They're worried." I walked my cart to the corral and slid it in with the others. The metal clanged. I turned back just enough that my voice would carry the same distance as hers. "Manage your own lies first," I said. Not a shout, a simple line, like measuring a board before you cut. Family tension exchange. Anna. "People notice. They're worried." Frank. "People notice when they're coached." Anna. "This isn't coaching, it's care." Frank. "Care comes with consent." Anna. "You're making a scene." Frank. "No, you're making a narrative." Her friend looked between us and found the ground with her eyes. A security cart beeped somewhere near the cart return. The air cooled another degree. I lifted my tote, rosemary poking over the edge like a small flag, and walked to my car. On the drive home, the phone buzzed twice in the cup holder. I let it wait. At the house, I locked the door behind me and set the tote on the counter. The rosemary sprig fell onto the cutting board, green against wood. I checked the calendar card on the wall. Sun 3, coffee meet, tea more 5. The square felt solid under my finger. Phone buzzed again. A neighbor I barely knew. "Heard Anna's worried, you okay?" I watched the dots as if text could breathe. I typed yes and didn't send it. I put the phone face down and let the question hang where it belonged, outside the door, until Sunday. Sealed like cardboard and tape, the scent of things going where they're meant to go. Mrs. Murray Gods. Larkin arrived right on the minute, scarf tucked in, the kind of punctual that makes rooms calmer. "Short and clean," I told her, tapping the first page. "You witnessed what was said. You witnessed how it was said." "I do clean," she said. "Short is harder." Her smile thinned into something resolute. "Let's put a line under it." The clerk waved us to the side counter. "Notary is free," he said, sliding a pen from the chain like a small ceremony. The neighbor from 2 doors down, Tom, showed a driver's license I'd never looked at before. "I don't like being in the middle," he said, "but I don't like rumors more." "That's why we're here," I said. Underestimated the IDs with the patient boredom of someone who respects exactness. "Sign within the box," she said. "No flourishes." Mrs. Larkin signed first, letters neat as hymn bars. Tom followed, careful, tongue just touching his lip in concentration. The notary rotated the top page, pressed one seal with a single solid click, raised in blue, and initialed the corner. She didn't repeat the stamp for the second page. She stacked them neatly, the top affidavit carrying the visible cue for both. "Done," she said. Other hands on the page steady mine. We stepped aside to let a man send a padded envelope somewhere that mattered to him. I held the affidavits by the edges so they wouldn't curl. "Read?" Tom asked. "No need," I said. "You wrote what you saw. That's the truth I needed." He nodded, relieved. Mrs. Larkin touched my elbow. "You want me to drive Sunday anyway?" "Yes," I said. $2.50. Washed to the sound of tape ripping and a bell on the door that didn't know it was part of a case. Outside, late sun slanted across the lot, and the wind made flags talk. "Subpoena," I laid the affidavits flat on the desk, smoothed them once with the back of my hand, and slid each into its envelope. I tucked a tiny rosemary sprig inside each. Quiet, living, no message, but presence. I wrote Sunday 3 on both flaps and held them a second before sealing. The phone buzzed. "Anna, Mom wouldn't want this theater." I stared at the screen long enough to feel the line try to hook me. I typed, "Truth isn't theater." Then I deleted it and tried again. "Paper is quiet, control is loud." I deleted that too. I settled on, "Sunday is 10 minutes, you'll be heard, .biz. Anna, we'll bring the real facts, Wolfgang. Bring them in writing." The dots went and went, then vanished, off to recruit another audience. Discharged the notary back to ask if the 2 signatures could ride under the single seal. "Yes," she said. "The top signature carries the seal. The second is referenced. You're fine." "Think 6-3, I said, and wrote chain good in the notebook. The ledger looked less like a diary every day and more like something that would hold weight if someone leaned on it. Thank opened my email and drafted a message to myself with the subject, Sunday Packet. I attached a scan of the top page only, 1Q, no clutter, and saved it to drafts. I slid a copy of the scan onto the USB, then closed the drive window like I was closing a cabinet. Family tension exchange text. Anna, this is cruel. You're turning neighbors against family. Frank, I'm turning rumor into clarity. You're embarrassing me. Frank, I'm protecting me. Anna, you're not fit to decide that. Frank, we'll see Sunday. The wall calendar pinged on my phone as if it had heard that last line. Overlay on the lock screen, sun 3 o'clock, coffee meet, T-2. I pressed the side button once. The square remained in my head when the screen went dark. I carried the envelopes to the entryway table. I slid them against the bowl where Helen used to toss her keys and, for a second, my throat closed. I set my keys down there and made the small sound people make when memory and resolve collide and both survive. The house settled as the furnace clicked on. I checked the chairs, 2 by the window, 1 at the head of the table, 2 flanking the kitchen doorway. I pictured each person in each place, and the words they might bring, and the clean, tight line I would walk between them. I brewed tea, the rosemary lifted, the room smelled right. On the way back to the door, I passed the desk and glanced at the affidavits one last time through the paper. A habit as old as parenthood, checking on something you already know is secure. I placed the 2 sealed witness envelopes by the door, labels facing up, Sunday 3. I lifted my keys, turned off the lamp, and stood a second in the dark entryway, a quiet stage, waiting for its 10-minute scene. They knocked like they owned the wood. I opened to the chain and let the porch light draw a hard circle around us. The wall clock over my doorway read 8:15 p.m. Time Zone held a stack of flattened boxes. Ethan carried tape and a smile meant for neighbors. "We're packing now," she said, already angling a box toward the threshold. "Not without my consent," I said. "You consented by not preparing," Ethan said. "We're helping." "You can't outsource my consent to a contractor," I said, and kept the chain snug. He lifted his phone. "We'll keep this orderly." Merc Larkin stood at the curb, coat tight, leash looped in her hand. Tom hovered a few steps behind her, arms folded against the cold. Across the street, a porch light clicked on, an audience that didn't clap. Anza raised her voice just enough to carry. "Dad, you've left the stove on twice this month." "No," I said. "You wander at night," she added, turning to the air like it could agree. "I take out trash when it suits me," I said. Family tension exchange. "Anna, you can't keep blocking us. This is happening tonight." Frank, "Nothing happens here without me." Ethan, "We'll be quick. Essentials only." Frank, "My essentials begin with the lock." She set a box down on the mat like planting a flag. I nudged it back with my shoe until it scraped off the threshold. "Don't make a scene," she said, through teeth that wanted to smile for witnesses. "I'm making a boundary," I said. Ethan put his phone on speaker. "Hi, yes, locksmith. We need an urgent entry for a senior who's locked himself in. Address." He rattled it off. Wrong number on the house. I didn't correct him. "There's no emergency here to cross the air. No consent for entry." Ethan said to me, and the phone at once, "You're confused." "Freund," I said. The dispatcher's voice crackled. Ethan turned the volume up, like authority had a knob. 15 minutes, he told Anna, covering the mic. "Maybe 20. "Proportional," she said, and smiled toward the curb. "We'll just start sorting donations." "Nothing house," I said. "Dad," she said softly, "don't do this." "Balloons would," I asked. "Make us the bad guys." The con said, "You brought boxes," I tile. "When you find our Bridges sprig I taped inside the doorframe brushed my knuckle when I shifted my grip. Green against paint, private and stubborn. Fear flickers, resolve locks the bolt." Tom cleared his throat, not picking a side. "Maybe wait until tomorrow. Big day." "Clang is why this matters," Anna said. "We want him safe before the weather turns." "Winter is a month away," I said. "Risk don't keep a calendar," Ethan said, and checked his. On speaker, a whole loop clicked back to the locksmith. "We're running a little behind," the voice said. "Closer to 20. "Understood," Ethan said, staring at me like time itself was leverage. Miss Larkin took one careful step closer to the curb. "Do you have permission to enter, Anna?" she asked, voice even as a level. "A compunti would want him safe," Anna said. not answering the question. I asked about permission, Larkin said. Tuna held the silence like it might soften if she warmed it long enough. It didn't. A minivan rolled past slow, brake lights bleeding red across wet asphalt. Somewhere down the block, a kid laughed. The night carried small sounds like proof that life went on whether or not you bullied it. Ethan tried another angle. We can inventory with the door open. The door stays closed, I said. You can inventory your assumptions. He flushed. This is ridiculous. This is legal, I said. He lifted the phone again. Can your tech hurry? The situation is deteriorating. He looked at Tom when he said it, as if recruiting a witness to weather. It's cold, Tom muttered. Nobody's deteriorating. I'm going home in 5. Too sharp. She softened immediately. Please. I settled back into his coat. She shifted the box again to the edge of the mat. I bent, picked it up, and handed it back through the gap of the chain. You forgot this, I said. Her eyes flashed. You're cruel. I'm consistent. We waited. The porch light hummed. The clock ticked over 1 minute, then 2. Ethan paced, taped the end of his roll to itself, peeled it, taped it again, the sound like a cheap drum. He checked his screen. 10 minutes, he said, though no one had asked. The speaker crackled. Tech turning on to open now. Anna lifted her chin. Let's get this done, she said, stacking certainty like boxes. I slid the chain into its seat and closed the door until the latch caught with a clean interior click. The 8:15 on the clock looked smug now, but only to me. Through the peephole, I watched headlights float at the corner and signal. A locksmith van eased onto the street, hazards blinking a calm orange, as if we were a stalled car and not a family with a line. Demolished door slid open with a metal swallow. A man in a gray hoodie and company cap stepped out, tool bag in hand, eyes already reading the situation like it was a job site. Evening, he said. Who's the owner? Plunged. I am, I said, chain on. Abeling answered over me. He's confused. We need access to pack essentials. Family consent. The locksmith's face didn't change. I need owner consent, he said, or law enforcement, or exigent circumstance. Alphabetical is he leaves the stove on, Ethan said. He's unsafe. Emergency is not a mood, I said. The locksmith shifted his bag from one hand to the other. Sir, do you consent to me opening this door? No, I said. He nodded once, the kind of nod that closes paths. Then I can't proceed, he said to Anna and Ethan. Policy. Policy? Ethan snapped. We're trying to protect him. Without consent, that's a felony break-in, the locksmith said mildly. I don't do those. Anna tried the smile that moved rooms. We're his family. Doesn't change the cylinder, he said. He glanced at my chain. You've got a good deadbolt. Humiliation burns. I hold the latch anyway. Ethan stepped away, phone already at his ear. We'll call another shop, he said. One that understands liability. He paced on the strip of lawn, listening to a menu that didn't care. Voicemail, he muttered, then left a message about immediate senior safety and urgent access. He made urgency sound like a password. Mrs. Larkin stood her ground at the curb, still as a mailbox. Tom shifted from foot to foot and finally said to no one, "This feels bad," which it did, and that was part of the point. The locksmith lifted his bag back into the van. "If you all resolve consent," he told Anna, "call back. Otherwise, I'm out." "You can't just leave," Anna said, voice dipping into the register that got waiters to hurry. "I can," he said, stepping into the driver's seat. "And I am." He pulled forward 3 feet and waited with hazards clicking, as if even his exit wanted to be safety conscious. Anna faced the door again. "Dad, please, let us in. We'll only take a few things. We'll make tomorrow easier." "A week making tomorrow worse," I said. "No." Family tension exchange. Anna, open the door. Frank, you don't own this lock. Ethan, this is for your own good. Frank, good doesn't need force. Anna, you're being cruel. Frank, I'm being exact. A siren coughed somewhere far and turned into a pair of light pulses without sound growing. Ethan pocketed his phone, righteous. "We'll do a welfare check," he told the air, and the air obliged by delivering a patrol car that rolled to the curb like a verdict, saving gas. Two officers stepped out, one older, one new enough to be careful. The older one kept his hands visible. "Evening, we got a call about a well-being concern." "I'm well," I said. "Concern is performative." "We just need to see you, sir," the younger one said. "Confirm you're okay." Fiberglass. "I'm okay. Can we talk face to face? Maybe step onto the porch?" the older one asked. Closed the door, slid the chain off, opened again just enough to stand in the gap. The wall clock read 8:47 p.m. behind me. The draft caught the rosemary sprig taped inside the frame and made it tremble. "Mr. Delaney," the older officer said, voice like sanded wood. "Any medical issues we should know about? Anyone you want us to call?" "I have a doctor," I said. "I have neighbors. I don't have an emergency." A company's hands clasped like prayer aimed at an audience. "He forgets. He wanders. He left a burner on." "That's a lie," I said, and let the words sit there without ornaments. The younger officer glanced at the kitchen and caught the fridge sticky. "Son, 3 o'clock, coffee." He nodded at it, not unkindly. "Plans tomorrow?" "Yes," I said. "Mr. Delaney," the older one said, "we're not here to force anything. We just want to make sure you're safe." "I am, safer with my door closed." He looked at Anna. "You have any paperwork giving you authority? Power of attorney?" "It's in process," she said. "Is it active now?" he asked. She swallowed. "We're finalizing." "Then tonight it's still his say," he said, almost apologetic. Ethan stepped in. "Officer, with respect, families don't need court to protect their own." "Sometimes they do," the older officer said. He shifted his weight. "Look, sir," he turned back to me. "We're going to note the call. If there are repeated calls, sometimes we have to do more. For tonight, we recommend maybe someone stay with you, or you consider a temporary placement." "Recommendation noted," I said. Door stays shut. Across the street, a woman's voice carried, "Poor man." The word poor hit harder than anything else. Poverty of agency, not money, the kind that people donate opinions to. The officer's radio chirped. The younger one took half a step back. "We're clear here?" "We're clear," the older said. He lowered his voice. "Folks, best not to block his door." Anna's face folded and smoothed. "We'll check back in the morning," she said for the witnesses. "You'll come back at 3, I said, like invited. The older officer set his hand on the railing for balance as he turned. "We'll note this and follow up," he said to the air, to the call log, to a future that pretended to be neutral. Red-blue light slid across the entry and the rosemary like weather I didn't order. They walked to the car. No paper changed hands. No lock changed states. The van signaled, pulled away. The patrol car idled a long breath, then joined the night. I closed the door and set the chain with the care people say for heirlooms. The house held still around me. The humiliation would keep its heat for hours. The latch kept mine. Stormed a couple lock. The house held its breath like a stage that had rehearsed all week. The rosemary mug sat at the head of the table, steam climbing in a straight line. A small card by the plates read, "Sunday 3, no flourish, just time doing its job." Reverend Carter stepped in first, calm in his coat, eyes already measuring temperature. Mrs. Larkin followed with lemon bars in a tin like a normal day, had wandered into this one and refused to leave. Tom drifted behind, hands in pockets, willing but wary. Two neighbors from the Oche row arrived together, their faces set to observe. Anna and Ethan came last. She glanced at the chairs as if choosing positions in a negotiation. Ethan carried a smile that promised we'd all be reasonable once I agreed with him. "Thank you for coming," I said. 10 minutes, then coffee." Pressing nodded. "We'll keep it even," he said, and sat near the end, where moderators sit when they can't hide. Anna folded her hands. "We're here because we love you," she began, voice round and public. "This isn't an attack, it's about safety." I rested my hand on the folder. "Then safety won't mind paper." Ethan exhaled like I'd proved his point. "Frank, this is theater. Reserve or bring paper, leave the theater." A small motion in the room. Carter lifted a hand just enough to settle the air. Let's proceed plainly, he said. Frank, you asked for this meeting. Yes, I said. I'm going to show one thing, play one thing, and place three things on the table. Then you can speak. I opened the folder and slid out the physician's statement, one page, and turned it so the room saw what mattered, the single blue clinic stamp beside Dr. Nayer's signature. I didn't tap it. I didn't read it. I let the stamp do what stamps do. Mrs. Larkin leaned forward, eyes tracking the seal. Tom's eyebrows moved the way a man's do when a thought he wanted to hold quiet gets said for him by ink. This confirms you're competent to live independently, Carter said to be helpful and exact. Yes, I said, in this. I placed the solvency statement under it, face down. Confirms I'm financially independent. The bank will verify the wording if needed. I didn't flash the notary seal. One cue was enough for the chapter. And these, I added, setting two sealed witness envelopes on the table, are affidavits from Mrs. Larkin and Tom. They describe what they witnessed this week. I won't open them until I have to. Ethan half laughed. You made the neighbors sign things? I asked them to tell the truth and sign their names, I said. Anna's voice thinned. This is cruel. You're turning people against family. I'm turning rumor into clarity. I set my phone on the table and tapped play. 22 seconds, the same clip I'd played for Carter. Ethan, cheerful. Intake's basically done. Anna, lower. You can't stop this, Dad. I stopped it there. No boasting. No replay. The room rang a little with the silence a recording leaves behind. Carter looked at Anna and Ethan, not unkindly. Those were your voices, he said. Ethan started to say context, but Anna spoke first. It was out of context, she said, but her eyes were on the blue stamp. He was refusing help. My left cleared his throat. That's not what refusing help looks like, he said. That sounded like pushing. Another neighbor nodded without committing more words. Take. I reached for the rosemary mug and let the heat into my palm. I've said no in every room you brought, I said, to the table, to my daughter, church, HOA, my doorstep. You kept selling a plan that wasn't yours to sell. Because you won't see the danger, Anna said, soft again, aiming for pity. Paper sees it, I said, and tipped my head at the stamp without pointing. Mrs. Larkin set the lemon bars down like a gavel. I asked for paper in the parking lot, she said. You didn't have any. Tom shifted, found his voice. And last night, I heard no consent, plain, twice. Ethan tried to rescue. We were scared. We overreached. But the tour. There is no tour, I said. There is Sunday coffee now. There is me here. Carter breathed in slow. I think we're at the crux, he said. Anna, Ethan, what do you want the neighbors in this room to believe? That he's unsafe alone, Anna said automatically. And then the sentence crumpled under the weight on the table. Her eyes flicked to the stamp again, to the envelopes, to the faces that hadn't agreed with her in public before. I wanted control. I wanted to stop being afraid. The room softened exactly 1%, enough to make honesty possible, not enough to erase what she'd done. Fear is honest, I said. Control is not. Her shoulders dropped. Mary mug without thinking, then stopped, then did it anyway, and held it with both hands as if heat could steady a life. I'm sorry, she said, finally in the register that speaks to one person and not a room. Dad, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Turbulence swallowed. We handled it badly, he said, eyes finding the safest place to land, which was the table. I handled it badly. Mrs. Larkin didn't smile. She nodded once, as if marking a ledger line satisfied. Carter took the room back gently. Then let's say what happens next, he said, out loud in front of witnesses. Slid the folder shut over the blue stamp. Next, I said, you will withdraw the tour. You will not enter my house without permission. You will not tell neighbors I'm unsafe. If you are worried, you will bring worry to me first. Anna nodded, eyes wet, face bare. Yes. Ethan. Yes. And, I said, you'll send one email tonight to the HOA chair and to Reverend Carter. No move is planned. We overstated concerns. Frank is competent, insolvent, will respect consent. Ethan winced at the word email, the way men do when they recognize a paper trail being formed in the wild. He nodded. We'll send it. Good, I said. Bring care when you have it. Bring paper when you claim it. Leave theater at the door. No one moved. The rosemary steam rose and thinned. Outside, a car rolled by, bass low, ordinary life resuming. My knees felt the kind of looseness that comes when you stop bracing and start standing. Heart, pulse. Relief lands like gravity. I'm upright because I stood. Abolish exhaled, a soft benediction. We'll set tomorrow's confirmations, he said, looking at me, then at Anna. I'll expect that email tonight. I'll update the board chair that I witnessed this conversation. The two neighbors exchanged a glance that meant, minutes will change. Anna put the mug down carefully, as if passing back a weight. Dad, she said, voice small, may I hug you? Not with a plan in your hands, I said. She looked at her empty hands and understood. Then she stepped forward anyway, slow, and I let her do the human thing. Not a victory lap, just an acknowledgement that the floor was solid. Coffee? I asked the room, and the room remembered how to be won. Monday started with ordinary light. No sirens in it, no audience. I brewed tea, clipped a sprig of rosemary from the pot, and slipped it into a glass on the kitchen sill. The green settled itself like it remembered this house better than the week did. My inbox pinged. Subject line, correction, Ref. Frank Delaney. I opened it and read it once slowly. We overstated concerns. No move is planned. We will respect Frank's consent, Anna and Ethan. I didn't reply. I moved it to a folder called Proof Family and felt the room exhale. Apologies talk, emails last. I forwarded the message to myself with 2 words in the body, for record, and attached nothing else. Then I closed the laptop and let silence stand where argument used to live. The doorbell chimed. Anna stood there with her hands visible, no boxes, no script in her eyes. Ethan hovered a step back, carrying nothing heavier than a nervous swallow. We sent the email, she said. Rise, she said. I'm sorry. I heard you yesterday, I said, keeping my voice level. Today is about follow-through. Proximity nodded too quickly. We'll stay available, he said. If you want help, you'll ask. That's the line, I said. Family tension ask first. Frank, you'll wait for yes, Ethan. Understood. Frank, good. Boundaries are doors. They swing both ways. She looked past me into the kitchen as if checking for a threat and found only a mug on the counter and a sprig in water. Relief moved her shoulders down where they belonged. We're meeting the HOA chair on the sidewalk, she said, to own it. Let's do that. We walked out together, not as a tableau, just 3 people with the same street under them. The chair was already there, leash looped in one hand, clipboard under the other. She wore the expression of someone who likes rules because they make small talk shorter. Mr. Delaney, she said. Anna showed me the email. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't need to. Thank you. Icked her pen. It's updated in the record now. The newsletter will carry general safety tips and nothing about you. No more neighbor concern entry. Good, I said. Anna cleared her throat. We'll send a second note just to you summarizing yesterday, the chair said. She glanced at Ethan. And no more pamphlets. No more pamphlets, he said. The chair tucked her clipboard under her arm, like the matter had found its box. All right, enjoy your day, she nodded to me, brief, respectful, and walked on, dog clicking a steady beat on the concrete. We stood in the quiet she left. A delivery truck rumbled past, indifferent to our little treaty. A boy on a scooter coasted downhill with a look that said, brakes are for later. Position hugged herself, then stopped, remembering agreements have edges. Do you want lasagna Wednesday, she asked. No agenda, just food. Bring it to the door, I said. If I want company, I'll invite you in. She nodded and didn't argue with the shape of that sentence. Ethan lifted a hand, a small wave that understood. It had exactly the size it needed. Back inside, I rinsed the mug and set it to dry. The rosemary in the glass made a faint green shadow on the sill. I printed nothing, I scanned nothing. I took the laptop out again, just long enough to drop the correction re Frank Delaney into archive and then closed the lid with the care of a bank teller closing a till. Heart pulse. Quiet feels earned. It fits the room again. Clock, out of habit, not fear. The key turned smoothly and then back again, proof that the bolt respected both directions. The house sounded like itself, a heater settling, a mail slot tapping once, the small conversation of wood remembering its shape. At mid-morning, I took the trash out, not to make a point, just because it was Monday. Tom stood by the mailboxes, flipping through a flyer without reading it. He looked up. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He looked at the hedge I hadn't trimmed. "You want to borrow my clippers this afternoon?" "I've got my own," I said, "but I'll wave if I drop one." He smiled, relief equal parts mine and his. "Minutes'll change," he said, as if reporting weather. "They already did," I said. "Tie it back inside." I set my phone on the counter and didn't check it. I watered the rosemary, watched bubbles climb the stem and pop. I wrote one line in my notebook, boundaries, codified, and closed it. The page didn't need an audience. The doorbell chimed again. Anna stood there with a single Pyrex, steam fogging the lid. She held it out like an offering you set down before you speak. "No agenda," she said. "Killing you," I said and took it. "I'll let you know." She nodded and stepped back. "Love you," she said, and for the first time in a week, it didn't sound like a key trying to fit a lock. "Me too," I said. "See you Wednesday if I text yes." Victory. Not with victory. That held. I closed the door behind her and leaned my hand on it, not to hold anything out, just to feel the wood agree. Then I went to the table, opened my laptop one last time, and dragged the HOA thread into archive. The preview line at the top of the chain echoed the chair's voice from the sidewalk. Minutes updated, concern withdrawn. I didn't need to keep reading. I knew what it said. I knew what it meant. I shut the laptop, turned the key in the lock, and let the house carry the sound. I kept the house the way Helen liked it. Quiet, ordered, mine. Patience did the heavy lifting. Proof did the rest. And the story that began at my wife's funeral ended with my choice standing. Anna learned the difference between worry and control. I kept the door. On the sill, the rosemary leans into light, glass tapping once, a small, clean sound. Jogador, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.